What's going on, everybody? This is David Pierce with Illinois Soul, and I have the legendary Terence Blanchard with me. Terence, how's it feeling?
I'm good, man. How you doing there?
Today's a good day.
Good.
And I'm glad that you can make it, and you guys are going to be performing excerpts from Fire Shut Up My Bones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that tells the story of journalist Charles Blow, who faced poverty, right, family trauma, and isolation.
Yeah.
Tell me, Terence, how is this story common to Black Americans?
Very common. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. You know, growing up in my neighborhood, I wasn't sexually abused the way he was, but I know what isolation feels like because I was the guy wearing glasses, carrying a horn case, walking to the bus stop every weekend to go for my lessons, which wasn't the most popular thing to do in my neighborhood at the time, you know, and I was always seeming to be a little different from the other kids because I was shy, I was quiet. So kids just being kids, you know, they create these pockets of groups. And I think they create those groups just for safety and security, right? But in creating those groups, there's isolation that happens for other kids. So it's one of the things, you know, as parents, we need to be cognizant of and mindful of and try to encourage our kids to be more inclusive, you know, in their experiences. But the main reason why I wanted to do it with Charles is that Charles is a living example of how to overcome all of that stuff, you know, to see the level of success that he achieved in his life, man, I mean, it's incredible. And the beautiful thing about it, when we premiered it in St. Louis, I walked over to him afterwards. I said, "We okay?" You know? And he said, "Yeah, it's good for me to see this," because he said, made me realize I'm not that person anymore, which was powerful.
But also, too, Terence, destiny is a common theme in this story as well. Tell me, what is it about destiny that, for one, directs Charles's path and allows people to make sound decisions?
Well, the thing about it, you know, we had this character, Destiny, in the opera, and for me, destiny is that thing that's bigger than us as individuals. You know, it's like your purpose in life. And some of us manage to recognize that. Some of us don't. You know, those of us that manage to recognize it, I feel I can live fulfilling lives. You know, whether you're a coach, Little League team, no matter what it is that you do, it's not about, you know, these high profile jobs. It's not about that. It's about being of service in your community. And the beautiful thing about what happened to Charles is that his isolation created this arena for him to reflect on his own life and what it is that he wanted to do. So when he started to make the connection into journalism, man, sky was the limit for this guy. And it still is. I mean, he's still doing a lot of great stuff.
Got it. Now, I'm not too familiar with Charles's story in full, but I know that he works for the New York Times.
Yes.
And before reaching that pinnacle, where was he that went from college Charles to then in between that?
Well, yeah, and that's the journey. That should be the next opera. Because we stopped the opera, you know, right, with him going to college. That's funny, you made me think about that. Yeah. No, but he had a lot of stops along the way, you know, starting in Louisiana, where he's from, and then just moving up the ladder, man. And now, you know, I think he's still at the New York Times, but he's doing a lot of other things. He had podcasts that he was doing. Then he became a contributing analyst on CNN for a number of years. He was doing that. And now, you know, he's still trying to raise awareness, you know, with his writing. And, you know, through social media, he's constantly posting things. He's a brilliant dude, man. Yeah. Smart dude.
Yeah. And I also got to ask, too, as a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, where did that play a role in this story, too?
I played a huge role because that's one of the things that kind of got him across the finish line at school, if you will. You know, finally belonging to something, you know what I mean? Yeah. Had to be a liberating experience for him. I mean, we've never really talked about it, but I would guess that once he made it across that line, you know, with that chapter, you know, it had to do a lot for his confidence and his self-esteem.
Got it. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that because, you know, being a member of the organization and for those that are in other Greek organizations, you know, they do kind of find their people and find their crowd once they're away from home.
They do, man. And I've never gotten a chance to be a part of one because when I was in college, I wasn't in college long enough. I was there for a little bit, and the next thing you know, I was touring with Art Blakey, man. So that kind of bypassed me. But I do remember, Q Dogs and Kappas on campus, and watching what that did for my friends who became, members of those organizations. And now being outside and a graduate, seeing it from this side, there's a lot that's going on out in the community that I didn't really know while I was in college. You know what I mean? And all too often with the Greek life, there's a lot of attention being paid to the college life, but there's a lot more to it once you become a productive person in society.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also too, Terence, you intertwine jazz, R&B, and gospel into this opera. Not only do you have 3 genres of music, but now you are transitioning that into a performance. What was that like?
Well, it's more of it was a blessing and to do it because it's more about trying to just put our culture on the stage and let people get a glimpse of what it is that we experienced growing up. It was so fascinating, man. Because even though it's Charles's story, I'm reliving my life through some of these scenes. Some of the church scenes. So some of the scenes with his father singing in the clubs and doing all of that stuff. And then a lot of people who came to the performances said the exact same thing. And I think that's the thing that resonated for a lot of people, because a lot of times when you talk about opera, a lot of times for most people, you're dealing with topics that doesn't resonate in their life, right? Because the operas are historic. They were created in another period of our history. What's cool about this, when we did Champion, my boxing opera in New Orleans, there was an older brother that came up to me and he said, "Hey man, if this is opera, I'll come." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what we started to see, because we sold out the shows in New York City, we sold out the shows in Chicago, wherever we've gone.
Right. And also too, Terence, this project led to you being the first ever African-American composer, right, to grace New York's Metropolitan Opera House in its nearly 140-year existence.
Yeah.
This being an African-American story told on such a big stage, how would you say this breaks barriers?
Or it broke a lot of barriers, because what upset me about that moniker is that I always have to tell people I was the first, but I wasn't the first qualified. There were composers that were very qualified well before me. William Grant Still is one of the ones that I cite. I actually saw a ledger of rejected projects, and his name was in there 3 times, And some of the comments that was made about his music was incredible, given the fact that I just saw one of the performances of his opera in St. Louis and thought it was amazing. Didn't know it was his opera. And I'm sitting going, man, what is this? This is beautiful. And there was an opera written, it's called Highway 1, written in the 30s. That's how forward thinking this guy was. So it's powerful, and it broke barriers because it opened a door for a lot of people. It opened the doors for the Met, for a new audience to come into the Met. For the new audience that came in, they got a chance to experience opera on their own terms, because it was dealing with their culture, right? It allowed them to buy tickets to other operas, right? So it's a win-win for everybody.
But also too, Terence, you've done film scores for movies like George Lucas's Red Tail, Cassie Lemon's Harriet, and Spike Lee's Malcolm X, along with a long list of other Spike Lee movies and films as well. What's it like bringing the sound to a film?
It's really rewarding. When we worked on The Woman King, I was privileged to work on that, just like I did with Malcolm X and 4 Little Girls and so many other projects that I've done in my career, because those are the stories of our culture and our history, and to be able to put it on par with anything in our medium is important to me. You know what I mean? I don't want, when you see our stories, to feel like that they can't compete. in any genre or any market because they can. And The Woman King felt like the culmination of a lot of my experiences brought to bear. And when I brought Diane Reeves in to sing on it, she said the exact same thing. So you feel, there's two things. You feel a blessing to have the opportunity, but with that opportunity comes a larger amount of responsibility, and it just makes you work hard to make sure that things are right. Because with all of these films that I've done with Spike and so many Casey, so many other people, I am proud to say that I'm excited for my grandchildren to be able to sit down and watch these films and learn more about their culture.
Absolutely, Terence. And I also want to ask too, what is it about music, right, that draws emotion
Well,
within the films?
Yeah, because music is that intangible thing. It's that sound. It goes beyond language. You ever been hurt to the point where you can't even put it into words, or excited to the point you can't even put it into words? Music is that thing that bridges the gap between emotions and expression, right? And when done right, man, it can really, really powerfully tell a story with great storytellers. That's the thing I get excited about on working certain projects, man, because with certain people you work with, man, they're really great at it. And David, I tell you this, man, with the people that I've worked with, from Casey Lemons to Spike Lee to George Lucas to Gina Prince Bythewood, man, the list is endless. I've been blessed. Even our husband, Reggie Bythewood, they'll send me the project, and I always have like a oh my God kind of moment because it's so well done. I go, it's like being on a court with with LeBron James. It's like you do not want to miss that pass.
Yeah.
If you got a no-look pass, make sure you got your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
And I'm the last link in the chain, and it's like, I can't drop this ball. So I always love that feeling of being terrified because the project is so good that it makes me really step up to the plate.
Because at what point in a production are you given this responsibility?
I'm at the last point.
Okay.
Well, one of the last points.
Yeah.
Because then after me, then they do the mixing of everything. But I'm at one of the last creative points. You know what I mean? And it's a responsibility, bro. It can be daunting, because like I said, you're looking at this project, you're looking at the actors, you're thinking about they shot this for 3 or 4 months. Everybody's putting their heart, sweat, and tears into this thing, and that's in your hand. You know what I mean? You go, okay. But a good friend of mine, man, Wynn Thomas, he was a set designer, he told me something that really calmed me down. He said, we all want to do 150% on these projects. He said, but the best thing for us to do is to just do your job. Just do your job.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And when he said that, I went, okay, cool. Then you just go back and regroup.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Terence. And also, too, you've used your musical abilities to give voice to societal issues and racial injustice. And you've even been once quoted saying, like anybody else, I would like to play feel-good party music.
Yeah.
But sometimes my music is about the reality of where we are.
Yeah.
Where are we today?
Woo! Well, it's kind of like an interesting dilemma where we are in the country, in the world, basically.
Yeah.
It seems as though we're at a point in time, there's a tipping point that some people don't want to really admit to.
Yeah.
We're at a point where it's inevitable for us to become like one really homogenous race. That's going to it's going to evolve over the course of time, obviously. And some people are afraid of that and don't want to accept that. So they're fighting really hard to maintain what they perceive to be their culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's putting us, people of color, in a precarious situation because we're not the lawmakers in big numbers. We're not the ones who write the checks. You know, we're not. We've made inroads in all of those areas. Don't get me wrong, because they're very powerful people of color in all aspects of American life.
Correct.
But when you see what's happening in Washington, it's very apparent that there's an effort to stifle the growth of other ethnic cultures in this country.
Yeah.
And that's virtually impossible. You could do all of these things that you're doing right now, the budget cuts and all of this other stuff. But in the end, you're going to wind up hurting your own people more so than anything else. And this is where the arts really comes into play with this. You know, we've been through this before as people of color. There are other people in this country that haven't been through this. So they don't know how to respond to this, right?
Yeah.
But people of color have been through this before, right? And we know that we just need to hunker down and stay within our community and make sure, I don't mean when I say stay in our community, I mean support our community, support each other. But also make sure that we're trying to uplift everybody, right? And that we try to educate and move forward, because that will come to pass eventually. It's already happening. It's just that this is just a bump in the road.
Terence, you are from the birthplace of jazz,
Yes,
that
sir.
being New Orleans.
Yes.
How would you say being in the heart of jazz music developed your musical abilities?
Wow, good question. New Orleans has had a huge impact on my outlook as a musician, because, you know, how do I say it? The foundation of a lot of what it is that we play in American music comes from the blues, comes from jazz.
Okay.
Hearing all of that, along with R&B, gospel, and all that other stuff in New Orleans growing up,
Right,
really gave me a strong musical foundation, right? And that's one of the things when we were talking earlier during the master class about how I'm able to cross genres, because that's all I know growing up. You know, it's always interesting to me, you know, the whole notion of what it means to be African American in this country. It's a broad brush that we can paint our culture with. Mm-hmm. We come in every walk of life, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? And experiencing that in New Orleans gave me that foundation, like I was saying, to experience music on its own terms. Not come to it with an attitude, you know what I mean, or none of that stuff. I look at it and I go, that's God's creation, right? And there's meaning in everything that's happening in all of those musics. So it constantly keeps me humble and keeps me aware.
Yeah. And also too, Terence, you've just performed at the 2025 Super Bowl, right? In your hometown.
Yeah.
Right? And that was alongside Southern University's band and Kendrick Lamar as well. What was that like?
Man, you know what was the funniest thing, man? It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. You know, I had a great time. It was cold as hell during rehearsals. But what really got me, man, you know, so I start the thing off and I'm on a 50-yard line and I'm in the middle of the field during rehearsal, and I look to my left and I go, man, it looked like they put the small goalposts up there. That goalpost looked like it was about that wide, man. And I said, oh my God, that's what they have to kick through? Because I never thought about it, you know what I mean? Because you've always seen it from TV. But looking at it from the 50-yard line, bro, it looks like you're going through like a sliver like this.
Straight and narrow.
Man, and I said, you know, my respect for those dudes goes sky high, you know. And then the other part of it was just a lot of fun being on the field, watching how it operates. You know, it takes them 6 minutes to put together that stage. In rehearsal, they broke it down. Cause we did 2 rehearsals. Second rehearsal, we did the run through maybe about 4 times. And I think on 2 of the times, they broke down the stage, took it off the field, and then brought it back on and put it all together and timed it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they don't miss a beat, man, when you're dealing with the NFL and those shows. It's incredible.
And also, too, this highlighting Black culture in America, you know, in the heart
Yes.
of jazz.
Yes.
What would you say it did for Black culture?
It was an amazing thing because, you know, our president was there at the game. And I kept wondering, is this resonating with anybody? You know what I mean? Because we had the pre-show where you had nothing but New Orleans culture, which is the thing that I was a part of. And then you had that show that Kendrick did on, which was amazing, right? And I'm sitting there saying to myself, is anybody sitting here really watching this and getting it? The mere fact that there were so many people who had to explain Kendrick's show to a lot of folks, how many people did you have to explain it to? It had to be, okay, there you go.
Well, I wouldn't say it was many,
Okay.
but what I will say is I saw videos where people were just like
Right.
watching it in their living rooms and they're just like,
Right.
or just nothing at all.
Right. No, I mean, because it was powerful. It was really powerful. And, you know, the thing that I loved about it was, you know, there was no mishaps. There was no negative thing that could become the gotcha moment, you know, later on. It was just like a really great performance that had a message.
Yeah. And Terrence, I also want to ask, do you think that we're reaching a point in American history where Black people's contribution, culture, and impact are becoming undeniable?
I hope. I really hope, man. I really hope because, you know, like that movie, Hidden Figures, right? That's powerful to think that we had, you know, African-American females that contributed so much to our defense system and just everything that they were doing. And it's all over so many different genres. The super soaker, I know it's kind of silly, but to think that African-American had something to do with the development of that.
Elevator.
I mean, it's like
Air conditioner.
Come on.
Streetlights.
Right, streetlights, right, exactly.
You know, most recently I've learned that there was a brother, I forget his name at this moment, but he created the concept of game cartridges.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I think I heard about him. I think I heard about him. But the wild part about it is we have to really deal with our educational system. And I'm talking about from the lower levels of education, because there's so many people who think that African Americans haven't contributed anything to this culture. And that is just simply not true.
Yeah.
That's simply not true. I mean, you know, it's a fascinating thing when you look at what was the story about the movie about the dude who couldn't go to medical school but became a doctor? And I forgot the name of the film, man, but this guy was brilliant, you know? And there's just so many stories like that in our culture, the contributions that we've made to the world, not just the US, but to the world, have been enormous. And I think, you know, I was hoping with the internet that would really come about, but as we see with anything, anybody with nefarious intentions can steal attention and try to create their own narratives. But we just have to keep doing stuff like this, like you're doing, you know what I mean? And everybody has to keep reporting and keep the stories out. And we have to celebrate those, you know, so our young people can learn about them as well.
Yep. And Terrence, you've been at this music thing for quite some time, right?
A little bit.
You've been working on many films and you've done operas now. How would you say, well, who would you say has had an impact on your career?
Oh man, so many people.
Yeah.
Because you go to my heroes first, the Miles Davis, Clifford Brown, Herbie Hancock's, Wayne Shorter's, Art Blakey, the Jazz Musician, just that thing. Then it goes to, like, you know, the younger musicians that I play with, and even my family, you know, my kids, you know. I look at them, man, and I feel very blessed to have 4 very productive, very different kids and 2 grandkids, right? And I just watch them and I get inspired by what it is that they do, you know, and the type of people that they are. Because I'm in this business of entertainment, right? That's a business that at some point is of service, right? And I look at my kids and inadvertently they are all about that, you know? So I find inspiration now from a lot of different things, man. And it's been a beautiful experience because I try to channel that into what it is that I do artistically. You know, not specifically, but the energy of that. the purpose behind that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I want to touch more on that service piece because, we live in a society that can be kind of like, self-indulgent.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
why would you say service is important? Like doing whatever it is that you are doing within your position, but doing it with the intent of service.
Well, service is really important because none of us know it all. Everybody has their area of expertise, right? And in order to combat the stuff that we were just talking about earlier, the things that we're confronting as a community, we all have to stick together, and be of service and really give my experiences to help people grow musically. That's my area of expertise, right? And in doing so, hopefully I can help some young musicians create music that help people reflect, help them heal, make them think about things differently.
Yeah.
Then I have other friends of mine who are in other areas of life. I have friends of mine that are federal judges, friends of mine that are accountants, friends of mine that are news reporters, and they all feel a need to help younger people because we're really trying to grow this thing, in a way that really makes us a very, very vibrant and strong community.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Terence, that's all I got for you, my man.
Hey, man,
Thank you for speaking with me. Anything else you want to share before I let you go?
No, man, it's been a great opportunity being here. I'm glad it's not cold because I forgot to bring my jacket, man. So I'm lucky. But I'm looking forward to the show. We have some great musicians. 2 singers that are here tonight are just amazing.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, good chatting with you, man.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.